the lesson I would give to anyone who's listening to this or to you guys is like, there was something that was going on there that that I haven't talked about, which is if I hired Greg in December of 2019, I made all those hires during COVID, during a period of a lot of uncertainty. And when we were candidly like losing revenue, my friend Will Scott, who's another agency owner, he used this Buffett quote that I really like, which is Warren Buffett says, like, be stingy when other people are being greedy and be greedy when other people are being stingy. And that really helped me because in that period of time, everyone was being stingy and I decided to be greedy and made a bunch of big hires, and it changed my life completely.
Hi, everyone. This is Joshua Hoffman and Alex Gerashenko, and welcome to another episode of the Masters in Marketing Agency podcast, where we deconstruct the why and how agency owners found their success and learn a little bit more about how they help their clients. Today, I have Mark Bealin, the founder and CEO of SearchLab, and a local SEO and PPC agency focused on helping business owners and managers connect. Welcome, Mark.
Good to be on with you guys. Thanks for having me.
Love the shirt.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I need to find like a podcast shirt. I just have whatever I have on, but I need like we have found that like if I wear that, I've worn.
You usually have a polo within reach.
That is true, and I do. I'm sure it is. It's right there. I've worn like the Phillies hat over there, and it just like gets more views on YouTube. It's just something nice or silly, and but where I want to start with this is the beginning of your career and kind of work through the subsequent years, so we can understand the lessons that you've learned as a business owner. And I specifically want to start with the person I guess that you were when you first started the agency back in 2017, because the last time we spoke, you mentioned that you were working long hours, you were going to a lot of conferences, not focused on sleeping, not focusing on your health. And it really started to kind of like impact your well-being. So I guess where I want to start is, can you talk about, what that looked like and some of the changes that you've made since then?
Yeah, sure. So I've had two agencies in my life, and we could talk about both of them. In 2009, I started an agency with partners, and SearchLab is sort of like an offshoot of that agency. So some of those clients are still with me. I started it in 2017. I'm a dad. So I was basically as old as my second child. I have three kids. And so you can imagine that's like a lot going on. You have three kids, a wife, a company that's just getting off the ground, all the processes and foundational stuff you have to build. And it was really exhilarating, but it also was working all the time pretty much. And so even back at Evolving, I used to work weekends, but now I'd be working like very late into the night and stuff like that. And we had nothing. Like it was working hard, not smart, if that makes sense. I was doing a lot of I'm not sure I was making a lot of progress on anything, but I was working a lot. And so you fast forward, that was what got us. In a year we were a really nice local story here in Chicago, and I just kept working like that for a long time. Talking, and then we started to get into more conferences and trade shows. So that involves a lot more travel. So as my position evolved, that meant more airplanes, more bad night sleeps in hotels, eating shit at the airport, and steak dinners and drinks with clients. And you fast forward the tape, and all of a sudden you're like, man, I was like way overweight. I was like not sleeping well. I just have never really slept well, but I really wasn't sleeping well then. And I could see my team. There was like, basically my team is people who were younger. There's one guy who's like, he was 7 years younger than me, 6 years younger than me. One guy was my age, one guy who was 7 years older than me, guy who was 7 years older than him. And you could start to see, this is what's going to happen to me if I don't change my ways. So, unfortunately, the younger of those people that I talked about died. Mark Irvin died in May of 2024, and that was like a wake up call. So that he was the healthiest, to be honest with you. Mark like worked out all the time, and was in great shape, and was thin and everything like that. So it was weird that he would be the one to have to die and everything like that. So that was a really big eye opener. I started to go get a bunch of tests, and I started a process to really change my health. And like really, I couldn't even run like 1 mile. Like I was an athlete growing up, and I remember just running a mile, just being like, I'm dead. Like at about the 3/10 of a mile mark and just couldn't get through it. And slowly but surely, I've really focused on this for over a year now, and got really into it at the beginning of this year. I joined something called Adventure Club, which is run by Jesse Itzler. I've loved my time in that. It's a bunch of people who are really, really into these extreme endurance events. And I progressed to the point where through training and dieting and, really cut out booze, cut out sugar and carbohydrates from my diet, lost over 20 pounds at this point. I'm much stronger than I was. And I was able to do this event called Rim to Rim to Rim. So I climbed down across the Grand Canyon and down and across back in one day. I did it in 20 hours with a buddy of mine. And yeah, it was pretty grueling. So that was 44 miles and like 20,000 feet of elevation gain in decline. I can't remember I think I put that right. And I lost a bunch of toenails, and it was awesome though. And so now I kind of do these extreme. I'm talking to you this time next week. I'll be doing another extreme endurance event, and it's just become a part of my life. So the hard part about agency life is, especially as an owner, I'm just always on, and so I needed to figure out how to turn around my health. And it's been, anybody who's gone down this journey wants to talk to me, I'd be happy to tell you. It's like one of my favorite things. My favorite things to do.
I didn't have this set up as questions or anything, but this is my favorite topic, is endurance. And I definitely moved to Colorado and started becoming obsessed with vert and all that cheesy stuff. But the question I guess I want to ask, and it's the question I usually ask in this sort of conversation, is like, you mentioned, you were working so hard and that's all you were thinking about, and then you're kind of doing these activities that take your mind off of work and things like that. What does go through your head when you're when you're doing that run, or you're doing those, hikes or whatever it is, and it does get really hard? Like, what do you say in your head?
There's different. It's an interesting question. There'll be different things at different times, right? So I remember the Grand Canyon for like 20 miles of that. It was just a sense of gratitude. I was like really happy, thought about all my kids, thought about my business, thought about how beautiful the Grand Canyon was. And then when it really got to be hard, you think back on the training, how hard you'd work to get there. It helped that there was no way out. So like, the only way out was like a helicopter, and I didn't want to pay 15 grand to do it. So there was only, like, they have these signs. I didn't see one, but I've heard about this. They have these signs that say going down is optional, going up is not. You have to come up. And so at the beginning, I'm remembering one other thing that he said. So we have a coach in Adventure Club, and right before we went off, my favorite part of this whole rim to rim to rim thing was the morning. So you get up at like 3:30 in the morning. You're at the hill by like at the initial descent at like 4:30 in the morning with headlamps and everything like that. And our coach gathered us around and gave us a speech, and he just said, "You can do anything for 24 hours. The human body can do anything for 24 hours." And if it got hard, I'd just be like, "You can do anything for 24 hours. Tomorrow you'll rest. Like, I'll be comfortable again." Yeah. And that was a lot of like the training. What you realize is like it's like, especially when you're so out of shape, it's like it just feels like this is never going to end. But like, really in a short period of time, you're going to be in a comfortable shower. You're going to be in a shower. You're going to be in a comfortable car. You're going to be, it ends. And so just reminding myself, you can do anything for 24 hours is very helpful.
I like that. I've spoken on this before, that I'm very aggressive in my head. I'm like, no, do it. But that's the other side of it, is I really think like, my body, I can do anything that I need to right now, and I'll take a break later. And you obviously feel so much better about yourself after. I have put myself in the hospital, so I have tried too hard once. But no, I think the other side of it is also, life is hard. And when you do hard things, life, I don't know if it gets easier, but it allows you to approach things with a better lens, like hard problems with a better lens, and say, "Oh, I can do this." And I think that's why I trail run is I want to put myself in uncomfortable positions so that I'm comfortable in uncomfortable positions. So, I always like diving into that topic. And
it's cool. I like that. There's I should say a couple of things. I'm very much still a novice. I've like barely been done like. I'm about to do my second big endurance event coming up here, so I'm not a.
I would not call you a novice anymore, by the way.
So I can I'm still getting used to it. But, you know, I think part of this is just like, just getting started was really huge. And then I don't know, like I had something, I lost my train of thought, but basically I have found this to be really, really a valuable way to, yes, do something hard. But I remember what I was going to say. What I really like are events that pique my curiosity and are really challenging. I don't really like, so the idea of like a marathon in Chicago where I've seen everything, I think that would be hard, but not that interesting to me. Where rim to rim to rim, I was in the Grand Canyon. I'd been to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
I just thought that was so like piqued my curiosity. The one I'm doing coming up is called 29029 in Whistler. I've seen Whistler. It's wooded. It's beautiful. It's like I live in the flattest place on earth. This is really beautiful and lush and hilly. And so I know it's going to be hard, but it's also going to be unbelievably cool to be there. And so I like that kind of like, those are the events I like. I don't really like the ones that are just hard to be hard. I like it where it's a combination of hard and, oh, this is really cool that I'm doing this here. So
yeah, that's why trail running in Colorado has just been like a dream of mine, because you're just like, I mean, where I used to live, I literally would go on my backyard and I would be in the mountains, and I would just run back there, and that was great. But you mentioned earlier, working hard, not smart. So on that topic, last time we spoke again, you mentioned that you work with a couple of coaches that have been pivotal to, in helping you kind of grow your business, and it's helped you kind of recognize business patterns. So who are the coaches, and kind of what value have you gotten from them?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I got a lot of value from two coaches in particular. I actually had two sales coaches, but one sales coach that I think we talked about was David J.P. Fisher, who's become a very good friend of mine. We live in the same suburb of Chicago. We get beers all the time. His kids and my kids are friends, stuff like that. So what's really interesting is I thought I was good at sales. So I thought I'm a good talker. I can make deals and everything like that. The company clearly grew a lot. We had outside salespeople. I don't want to take more credit, but I thought I was good. And what I learned from coaching was that I was very interested in getting people to say yes. And I could get deals done. Like that's what I like to do, is just I make a deal. But oftentimes I would do it like not profitably, or it burn out my team or overextend my team, or it wouldn't be a good, the thing I sold wouldn't be enough value for a customer. And so I had to learn that the first thing that if there's anything that I would say I've been good at is I don't have that big of an ego. So I thought I was really good at sales. Learning from this coach, like, oh, I have a long way to go. And I have this weakness was really helpful. The other thing I learned from him, so by this time we had started to really put processes and procedures, standard operating procedures for everything, how you do your SEO, how you do individual tasks within SEO. This had really started to get going. But the only place where we didn't have it was in sales. And I think this was I work with a lot of entrepreneurs who are kind of in their early stages. And I watch this over and over again. People make the same mistake I did, which is they hire a salesperson and they go, okay, go make me money, with no process behind it. Search Lab at that point had zero brand. Like, it's not like you're going to cold call somebody and say, I work for Search Lab, and they were going to know who we were. They would have no idea. We had nothing but just like, figure out how to make me money. So really that coach taught me how to take from like hiring to pipeline management to forecasting and everything in between, and have a true sales process that could kind of start to go. And ultimately what we did was we hired a salesperson like Don Ramsey, who's our vice president of sales and marketing, has been transformative. And once I watched him, and I was like, oh yeah, he's better than me. Even if I thought I was good, he was just better at that. He had the stamina for closing deals, but I also could give Don like a true process. I could set him up to succeed and not just, hey, why don't you call this list of people until your head explodes? It's like we had a good process. We had some of the, building blocks. There's certainly ways to go, but we had something that he could build on. The other coach was Noah Weiner, who now works for me, which is pretty cool, as our chief strategy officer. So Noah and I worked together at 3 different places. Noah was really instrumental in introducing me to to EOS, which It's very popular among these early stage entrepreneurs. And I really like the way he set it up. He said, like, to take you back a little bit, when we met, Search Lab was like probably like $1 million of revenue. And we had, like I said, a really good local story here in Chicago. And we sat down for lunch. I can remember where we were, and it was like a sushi restaurant. And he started to ask me some questions, and there were good answers. Like, how's your growth? Like, oh, it's like this. How's your top line growth? How are your financials? Really good. And then he would ask me some questions like, what's your sales forecast? And I was like, I hope, like I go outside, I hope it rains, and sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. I didn't have any sort of like rigor to my forecast. That was one problem I had. And then the other problem he started to pinpoint, he's like, how much money do you have? How much do you have in a rainy day fund? How do you think about money? My legitimate answer to him was, I know I can afford this lunch. And that was how much I thought about, finances. I was a marketing guy. Finances were like a trip to the dentist when I had to go talk to the bookkeeper. It was not fun. And so really working with him and getting an operating system for my business was huge. And more than anything, it made my psychology flip, where I went from, I even told you that in the pre-show, was like, I thought of myself, if you would ask me in like 2019, what do you do for a living? I would have been like, I'm an SEO. I'm a digital marketer or something like that. And by the end of that experience with that coach, if you would ask me, what do you do for a living? I would have said I'm an entrepreneur. Like that I run businesses, and that I don't have I didn't start a job for myself. I started a company. So it was really gratifying. I recommend it. I think I have some caveats. There's a lot of coaches out there. I don't think everybody's great, but in my experience, coaching was really helpful.
How did that change in understanding finance change your perspective or approach to running your business?
Yeah, I love talking about this. Again, I think I got a D in accounting in college. I can't tell you how bad I was at finance. And I'm not joking you. There was a meeting I would have with our bookkeeper every month, and I would like smack myself in the face like this, like the company's counting on you, like you got to pay attention, like get in it. And all I cared about was really, I wanted to do great SEO. I wanted to be with clients. I wanted to sell. I wanted to do all those things. And finance was like the outcome. So I always felt like they were telling me stuff that already happened, and I didn't. What could I do about it? And so what has happened to me, and like this whole thing that you're talking about, is I really started to understand business strategy and like business strategy. Like that part was really interesting to me. And just because I was marketing is a bunch of strategic stuff, and it's what we do at the expense of everything else. And so I started to realize there's no strategy that doesn't start with a dollar sign. Like if you have a strategy and it doesn't have a cost to it, it's an incomplete strategy for us. And once I started to get there, it became much more interesting, because now it wasn't something that already happened. It was something that was going to happen in the future. And it was part of my ongoing efforts. And today I look at like, financial statements and financial reporting. I still don't think it's like it. I should already, I'm surprised that's not good, but I think forecasting is super valuable, and forecasting revenue, forecasting sales, forecasting churn, and getting into that stuff is really, really valuable. And everything we do now, like everything in our business, I had a conversation with my director, and I was like, the thing that it's kind of a chart of how you go through things. First thing, it's customer value. Does this thing actually, our customers at the center of everything we do? And then next after that is, we're a for-profit business. This has to make money. And so can we make money with it? If those two things are right, then the next steps are just, they fall into place. Like we figure out how to do it. But I've loved it. I mentioned, I think before, I progressed to the point, you remember where I came from, like just hated this stuff. I progressed to the point where I did a 3-day boot camp at Wharton School of Business, where I remember walking around and being like, they're going to find out I'm here and kick me out. Like I shouldn't be allowed at this. Like all these Ben Franklin quotes on the sidewalk and everything. It was really cool. So we had Wharton professors teaching us all this stuff and case studies on humongous companies. And I just thought it was exhilarating. And I took away from it, like just a bunch of things that are still involved in my business. I learned how to salary cap there. I learned how to like manage numbers that are really important. So so I've come a long way where now, I mean, it's one of the main things I talk about our finances, and it's been an amazing evolution. Like it's really not that long at the time, like it seems like 7 years or whatever would be a long time, but like or 6 years or would be a long time. But that's a monumental change in my point of view. And I think the biggest thing is that I really began to understand finance as integral to strategy. And once I got that figured out, the passion and the interest has followed, so.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. We're super welcoming in Philly. But yeah, I had luckily I had a mentor who coached me on finance, and he said, I know right now you probably think accounting and finance is the same thing. It's not. What your accountant prepares for you is a statement of what has already happened. And just like you said, in finance is the beginning of your strategy of what you can do and what you need to do.
It's such a good point. And I was done. Like, that's a crazy amount of time. So if I started my first company in 2009, I'm talking 29. So that's like 10 years of just winging it. And for sure, we would hit at different companies, we'd just hit these ceilings. Like we'd get somewhere and then we just couldn't push through. I think these are lessons that I had to learn, but that was a big part of it, was just overhiring or hiring the wrong positions or using my money poorly. And it took me a long time to get a sense of it. But today I think we're in a much better position. It's more of an interesting job too. It's like I'm constantly trying to live in the company 90 days from now. Like I think there are people who are like a woo-woo entrepreneur and be like, I'm living in the company a year from now or something like that. But I can't, in my business, I can't really be more than 60, 90 days. But I do want to be living, with an eye toward the future all the time. Everyone else is kind of locked down. They got oars in the water. They're getting things done. One person has to go like iceberg straight ahead, move, and so that's really how I visualize it. And a big part of that is understanding the finances.
I think a big shift there is, and we've heard this phrase a lot, but it's working on your business and not just in your business. I think, especially the early years, we just are so in our business, making sure that we can get payroll and all that kind of stuff. But maybe it's a privilege actually, or maybe not. Maybe it's a necessity to work on your business and not in your business. But do you remember Huntsman Hall at all? Did you ever go to Huntsman Hall? No, that's my first two companies that I started. I had co-founders that were at Penn, so we would always, there is a difference between what I saw. There is a difference between Ivy League and every other college, and it is the network, and it is. Yeah. It's not just what you're learning in the classroom when you sit down, but it's the teachers helping you after, and then them connecting you to investors or mentors or whatever it is. But man, there is something different at Ivy League.
Yeah, the resources at Wharton are amazing. We had a startup there in 2015 out of their Wharton. I forget what the program was called. But we went through their incubator and then accelerator, and they were just like, here you go. Here's so many resources you need, credits for all the things, advisors, and yeah.
And I should be clear, like I'm not actually like I didn't graduate from. I have no master's right now.
No, yeah, right.
It's a 3-day thing, but it's like it's mainly just like, how did this like slappy from who hated accounting end up at the most prestigious business school and focused on finance in the country. It's like, it's pretty wild to see that. So
yeah, it was we were an accelerator for my first company, and that introduced me to my co-founder in the second company. So it's a great network. All right, so we can kind of been talking about it more on the strategic side, but now let's get a little bit more into the agency search lab. Can you just start by telling us a little bit more about the business?
Yeah, except you may have to cut me off because I will go a long way. So I think
do.
The story I tell a lot on podcasts like this is that it was our beginnings were really interesting. So I started a company in 2009, like I said, evolving, and that company had 2 partners in it, and so we worked together I was there for 8 years, and there were 3 good years and then 5 other years. So we we started to move on. So really what I'm telling you a story of is like, I was 25 when I started, and I was 32, I guess, 31, 32 when I left. And yeah, that doesn't seem like enough years. Maybe I was 33. Yeah, I was 33 when I left. So very different life, right? 25, single, living in the city. I was already making more money than I had made at my prior job really fast, and just had a great time. My partner in particular, I used to be unhappy about that. I've kind of like learned that there's no reason to be unhappy or mad at somebody. It's really just like we had different points of view on the business. That was like kind of a younger me reason to be mad at him. Like he just wanted a different thing than I wanted. I wanted once my kids started coming around, like I really wanted to scale and grow, and I was ready to work hard and take chances and take risk and go for it. And I think we started it as more of a lifestyle business. And he didn't have any reason to want to come along on this like huge risk taking, hardworking thing. Like, so it was, we did have conflict though. And when that started to really hit a more like fevered pitch when my daughter was born. And so that was 2015. And then when my wife got pregnant with our second, I like started to work nights and weekends. As you can imagine, diapers and baby formula is expensive. And I started to work nights and weekends and on what became Searchlight. And so that grew really fast. Started to get referrals from there. And I kind of had a little system to get new clients. And before long, I couldn't do it. It's like there's not enough time in the day for all this stuff. So I went and talked to my partner and I said, I'm leaving and we got to figure out how to divide up this company. And went home, and that night my wife's water broke, and so I had like a new business and a son in 24 hours. So that was pretty wild. So it really started with like children being a big part of the driver for me to be like my own boss. And so so we went from, in our first year we did very well. We did have like like all those nights and weekends clients came over. Some clients from Evolving came over. And we started to build a team, which was really cool and fun. We were making all kinds of mistakes, but having a great time doing it. And we moved from one office to the next office. This is when everybody came into an office and worked before long. And eventually we started to plateau in like 2018. And that's when we started to work with those coaches. And it was a great experience. We pivoted. By 2019, we hired Greg Gifford, who's like a very famous local SEO, and I could tell a whole other story about that. And it was like an amazing like spree of hiring. I joined EO, which I talked to you about before, is a really important organization to me. I hired Greg, who's one of the most famous like local SEO personalities in the world. Then we hired Don, who's my vice president of sales and marketing, who is probably like the best salesperson I've been around. And we have really Diane would be the only competition for him, who's also on my team. And then we hired Mark Urban. Like it went 1, 2, 3 all in a row. And Mark Urban in 2019 was like PPC Hero's most influential person in PPC and Microsoft's North American Personality of the Year. So we had like just built this like amazing leadership team to join me and Tim Deeney, who's already on it. We had an amazing leadership team in like one fell swoop. So the lesson I would give to anyone who's listening to this or to you guys is like, there was something that was going on there that that I haven't talked about, which is if I hired Greg in December of 2019, I made all those hires during COVID, like during a period of a lot of uncertainty. And when like we were candidly like losing revenue, but there's my friend Will Scott, who's another agency owner, he used this Buffett quote that I really like, which is, Warren Buffett says like, be stingy when other people are being greedy and be greedy when other people are being stingy. And that really helped me because in that period of time, everyone was being stingy and I decided to be greedy and made a bunch of big hires and it changed my life completely. So from that period on, we doubled the business almost every year for 3 or 4 years. It just kept doubling and doubling and doubling. And we've been on the Inc. 5000 list for 4 years in a row now. And it's a team of like 50 people. We really just have 2 service offerings, and it's Greg is still with me, Don's still with me, and Mark. Mark passed away in May, but like is very much still a part of our company and our mission. And Tim's still with me, and so it's been an amazing run. So right now, where we're at is like we're really trying to figure out how to, if there's anything that I would want out of this podcast, if somebody's trying to sell their agency, I'd probably like to talk to them, because we're looking to bolt on agencies to my agency right now. So a big part of my job right now is acquisitions and finding people who might be a good, like we really only have 2 service offerings, SEO, local SEO and PPC. And if somebody had a complementary service or complementary service offerings for that, we would be a good fit.
Man, I wish we had 2 hours, because I have like so many. I know we're kind of getting towards the end of time, and you're like picking me on so many things I want to talk about.
I just want to fit one thing in real quick. Mark, you mentioned that when you started selling differently, you started selling not like a salesperson that was trying to get clients for the company, but you started selling as a business owner. I didn't fully understand what you meant until you just did that. That was very cool. Yeah.
And I guess this question kind of goes into the same conversation we were having when you did mention the EO stuff last time. And I want to get to the service offerings in a second, but you mentioned making these hires during COVID, and we kind of talked about this a little bit last time, but can you talk a little bit more about just risk?
Yeah, I think this is a really good topic. It's like one of my favorite topics. I'm a member of this organization called EO. I'm on the executive board. So I'm the president-elect of EO Chicago, which is the local chapter. And it's like totally fills it's like my favorite thing. And before that, you guys mentioned you've been part of accelerator programs. EO has an accelerator program. And so I've been a coach of that for 2 years. I've been on the board overseeing that program for 2 years. So this is like my sweet spot. I love the early stage entrepreneurs, and accelerator is basically, it's a business with between $250,000 and $999,999 for us. Like that's how we would classify an accelerator. And so one of the things that I've noticed after 4 years of doing it, and I've had friends, like my friend Paul was really helpful at helping me realize this. You start to do like pattern detection, and you can see like there aren't like 100 different problems that these businesses have. There's some variation, but usually you can see that there's a repetitive problem. One of the biggest ones that we see over and over again is risk aversion. And so, it's not the only one. Like people have problems. The big problem a lot of these early stage companies have is what we call like a sole proprietor trap. The whole business revolves around the founder, and the founder can't scale because they can't clone themselves. Another one is risk aversion, and this is, I think, super, super important. I'm going to give you some numbers, not to like brag or boast or anything like that, but I just think it paints a better picture. So when you get going as a business, I was flat broke. Like I had no money. I was going through savings like out the wazoo, and it was really stressful. And so then once I got to a certain point, I'd say there's like 20 grand a month coming in of profit, right? It's so easy to just sit there and bathe in those profits and just say like, man, why don't I just stay here a little while and start making this money? And really, there's no button you can push that says like, just keep me right here and I'll be fine with 20 grand a month. If there was, I might think differently, but I had to take risk to get to the next level in the game. And the temptation, I think, far too often is once things get comfortable, businesses kind of go like this. They kind of plateau, and then they go up, and they plateau, and they go up, and they plateau. In those plateau periods, or even before those plateau periods, as you can see, an opportunity or a good way to reinvest profits, that's the time to jump. And I've been fortunate to do that a few times. Like now we're at a point where, again, it's like I've got made a little bit of money and everything like that. Last year was the first time we made like over $1 million of EBITDA, and my tax return had 2 commas in it and stuff like that. And it just feels amazing, right? Like you can see all my reports are like, oh, you're doing great. And again, if I could just kind of lock in, if there was some way to just be like, okay, stop the game, just keep me getting this amount of money every single month and I'll be fine, I might take that option. That sounds pretty good to me. But for us, it's not going to stay there. And it will, if we don't take another risk, our competition will come and take our market share, and it will just be a race to the bottom for us. So again, even at 40, about to be 42, I'm back in a position where it's time for me to take a risk, or else this company will begin to just atrophy and won't advance to the next level. And so it's a constant state of re-entering the unknown and having the courage to do this. And the other thing that I everything I've said so far sounds great, because you like, for us, we took these risks. I'm telling you the stories about like taking a risk on Greg and it worked out. I'm not telling you the story about the risk I took and it like egg on my face, right? But there's 8 of those for every one of the good stuff. So you're going to do all this stuff, and there's a worse than 50-50 chance that it's gonna come out roses. It's such a tough. So when I talk to accelerators, I'm like, do you want that kind of a life? Do you like that kind of pressure? Where the beauty is, you can be wrong. You can take a risk and be wrong a bunch of times, as long as you don't run out of money, and you get one goes right, and it's a bonanza. It's awesome. And so you have a lot more opportunities, and the wins can be huge. The payout can be massive. So I'm a big fan of coaching entrepreneurs through it. And then what you find with some entrepreneurs and some accelerators that we work with is, the best thing is they can accelerate their business. They can get to $1 million and beyond, and have this great life. Maybe the very next best thing is that they can find out not everybody should be an entrepreneur. It's not an easy life, and maybe, just maybe, your participation in a program like Accelerator will teach you should really work for somebody else, like most people should. It's not for the faint of heart. And if your risk tolerance isn't crazy, it can be really, really hard to. You're going to lose sleep. You're going to be unsure of yourself. You're going to have some money, lose some money. Like it's a roller coaster life. And you got to really soberly assess, like, do you want that?
I had a few questions lined up, but I think that's a great place to end. I think that was a pretty powerful kind of point to be making. And as we come up to the end of the episode, I just want to give you an opportunity to mention how people can find you and anything else you'd like to end with.
Sure. So the company's website is searchlabdigital.com. We have a weekly video series that Greg puts out called Local Search Tuesdays. Our director of brand experience, a guy named Dane Seville, he's frequently doing webinars and other things. So, I know we're kind of wrapping up here, so forgive me for being long-winded. Our point of view as an agency is we will give out free information abundantly. So we'll speak at a lot of conferences and trade shows. A team lead on our PBC side, Susan Yen, has become like a really big up-and-coming speaker on the speaker circuit. But Ashley Segura was a big hire. She used to have a free course on SEMrush. So really what we believe is there's like kind of this virtuous cycle of, give away free content abundantly. We'll give away all our secrets. It's literally how we do it. And people find out they don't want to do that. They'll connect with our sales team. We'll figure out if they have an unmet need, and then we try and if we can help them, we help them, and we put them into a really high-end boutique service. So I am like a big fan of I don't care if people want to know about us, don't just like automatically sign up and just try and get SEO service. I would rather you really ingest some of our content, see if it's what you think, and if you like what we have to say, please, we're easy to find.
My last question that I had typed up and everything was literally, can you tell us a little bit more about what you do and what your sales pitch looks like? So that was perfect throwing it in there. You read my mind there. But thank you so much for coming on the show. And for those of you who learned something new from this episode, please consider giving us a like or a follow so we can continue getting the highest quality of guests. And as always, thank you for listening. Mark, I just think every single thing that we talked about on this episode was very valuable. So thank you very much.
Awesome.
Very
Alex, thanks for having me on. I'm a chatterbox. Hopefully I got to enough of your questions. So that's all.
Without a doubt. No, this was a great episode. Thank you so much.
All right, cool. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Masters in Marketing Agency podcast. I hope you got a ton of value out of this episode. And before we go, I just want to thank our sponsors, DevNoodle. DevNoodle provides marketing agencies with the ability to offer their clients unlimited website design, build, and management services with fixed monthly plans. If website design, development, and maintenance is holding your agency back from growing, please reach out to us at devnoodle.com, where we make websites easy for you and easy for your clients. devnoodle.com.